that's they're superficial veins. But every time it happens, you have to go in for an ultrasound to make sure there are no clots. It's, you know, 5 minutes after 5 on the 18th of June, 2018. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Public Utility Advisory Board of the City of Truth or Consequences to order. Can we have the roll call, please?
George Segedi.
Here.
Jeff Dornbush.
Here.
Mark McCord.
Here.
Gil Avelar.
Here.
Randy Ashcroft.
Here.
We have one.
All right. First item, approval of the agenda.
I make a motion we approve the agenda.
Second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of Monday, May 21st. And I did not find anything on there that needed to be corrected.
I make a motion we approve the minutes. I second it.
Okay. Does anybody need any more time before we vote? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Okay. Item number 3, comments from the public. We have anything this week? Okay. On item number 4, does anyone have any response to public comment from a previous meeting? No? Okay. Next, new business. Discussion update, sanitation department is, okay.
Good evening, members.
Good evening.
We don't have a whole lot going on new anyway for this week. We just received our new pickup truck. We have 3 vacancies currently. We're just kind of wrapping up the fiscal year, getting everything ready for next year. We've got a, can't hear me, sorry. We've got we've been having some issues with the TDS switchover. I was trying to run reports this afternoon for you guys, and for some reason the IP addresses are not matching, and until that all gets ironed out, I won't have any numbers for you guys. Should be by next meeting though, for sure. It's time for any questions. We are really busy right now. We've pulled in over $1,000 today, just in cash sales.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yes, we have a side loader trash truck in Albuquerque right now for repairs. Initially, they told us it was going to be $4,800 to repair, and then this Friday afternoon, they sent me another quote that they had went in to start doing the work because we got the PO for them, and there was water in the flakes of metal in the fuel system. So they're having to completely replace that fuel system. It came out to $12,216 for that repair. So that's a big chunk out of our budget.
Yeah.
Anything else? No? Okay.
How old is this truck?
2008.
It's got a few miles.
And we will be getting a new side loader this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one you're planning on
No,
replacing.
actually, that's one
That's
of the,
the-
that's actually one of our
that was one
newer
of the
ones.
good
That's our
ones.
second oldest truck.
Ah.
That's not the Ford then, huh?
No. No, it's got a Isuzu motor, actually. Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, 5B, discussion update, water, wastewater.
Chair members, I'm going to kind of jump in and assist. Jesus is out today, but we do have Tracy, and we call him Little Jesus, but he's actually Big Jesus, right?
Okay.
So Tracy will cover real quick the wastewater treatment plant project, and Jesus will cover some other items, and then I'll cover some. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Phase 1, we are going to have our final walkthrough and sign off on that and do the final closeout with USDA. Phase 2A, I believe, is moving along. I've not heard of any major issues or concerns. Right, Phase 2A is moving good. Phase 2B is at USDA right now for review, and once they approve the final plans for review, we'll be going out to bid for contractors and moving into Phase 2B. That's all that they have going, right?
Is that the finishing off the clarifiers?
That's in the phase 2A.
So they put the equipment on the clarifiers and
No, as far as functional, they're working on electrical.
Yeah.
They're working on electrical, and we talked to the foreman, and he said he was about 90% done. That was last week.
so are we gonna be putting those online as soon as they're signed off on?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. We will also be meeting tomorrow afternoon with USDA after the walkthrough pertaining to our water application. As you guys know, we received the Drinking Water State Revolving Loan Fund, kind of an informal letter, and that was for the $2.9 million project with a forgiven amount of a little over $800,000. And we're going to see if we can pull USDA on a portion of that, on the Cook Street portion. But we're also looking at putting our USDA application out for the Cook Street and everything listed in our preliminary engineering reports, which is all the downtown water lines. So we're going to talk with Sandra tomorrow and see how to get all that up and going and moving.
And when that gets going, then we'll be doing our water rate study too, right?
Correct. Well, yeah, we've already kind of started I've reached out to a couple of places for RCAC to start taking a look at that as well, because no matter, even if for some reason USDA doesn't have the funding to go that route, with that drinking water money, we're going to have to look at raising those rates, because, you know, we're going to have to do a loan, so have to pay it back somehow.
Right.
Okay. I have a couple things on the list here. My supervisor gave me. One is going to be the vacuum station in MIMS. We ordered the module. They should be coming in Wednesday. We're going to have to coordinate with the water department and our department to see when we could install it. Also with the water wells, we videotaped number 4-8 and the river wells. For well 4, we're going to have to replace a column pipe. Casing will be need replacement as well. Replace 30 horsepower submersible pump, approximately about $30,000. Number 8, when we videotaped it, there was a bunch of iron built up in there. We're going to scrub it, acidize it, and see if we could put a submersible pump instead of the turbine. That's going to be approximately about $60,000.
Excuse me, how much?
About 60,000.
60,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well 7's already in the phase of getting done. Sometime next week, I should be getting an answer when they're going to come in and get it done.
Do you have all the funds to do well 7?
Hopefully.
I think we won't be able to find the funds to replace it. Thank you, Jesus. But don't leave. A couple of other things that I wanted to cover, and regarding, let me see the list. One of the items, as you all may have seen, the work that's being done by Smithco in front of the utility office, replacing that sewer line. You know, they took off a section of the line because it tied into a PVC pipe, and then they initially thought maybe we don't have to replace the whole line, since they thought maybe all of it is PVC, the rest of it they dug up and no, it's still clay. So it was just a patch, so they went ahead and replaced the whole line with PVC. So now that line has been replaced, our streets crew is going to go in and put the sidewalk, curb and sidewalk, so at least we know we're not going to disturb that line anymore. The plan is still to go in and redo all of the water and sewer line in that area, in all of that downtown area around the plaza and around City Hall. So at least for that line, that will be done because it was so close to the curb. So that's being done. The other issue that I wanted to address is, I know You know, one of the things that came to my mind, I know last week, Jeff, you had a question about well number 7 and the capacity of the tank. And I appreciate the kind of the question and the heads up, because that's one of the issues here, you know, as a Public Utility Advisory Board, is bringing up those questions, is that may impact the system. So definitely, as Jesus pointed out, there's a lot of issues that we're dealing with, you know, and there's a lot of big ticket items that we're dealing with. So that's in regards to the operations on well number 7 is being taken care of. But the bigger question was, with the capacity of the tank going down, what are we doing? When does the water conservation kick in, and all those safety features to make sure that we have adequate water supply as well as adequate fire protection? And so those are things that we'll address as time goes by, but I think those are quite good questions that need to be brought up. Some of the other questions that need to be discussed is, I know, Randy, you have a couple of questions that you keep on bringing up at commission meetings, and as I stated to the commissioners, that's not the proper forum. The proper forum, actually, for some of your questions is this forum. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to ask those questions, and myself can address them, or Jesus, or Tracy.
Sure, and I can bring them up at the city if I want to the commission. It's absolutely proper. How many pumps are working on the MIMS edition? And how many are...
I have both of them on right now. The problem with it is, they're old. They're old. We just replaced one. We had it serviced. We ordered the other one, the other module, so we could do the other one. Maybe we could get it to work more efficiently.
Okay, what are these modules for now, son?
They're compressors, air compressors.
Okay, and then, but both pumps are in pretty sad shape?
Yes, sir.
And you said you just got one running? Is that what you said?
No, I have both of them running.
No, I heard you say that, but one of them has been out, correct?
Yes, sir. And we addressed that problem.
But you have both pumps running, but
Yes,
they're
sir.
in very poor shape?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then, well 7, when is that going to be put back into service?
We expect a call, or we expect them to come in sometime next week.
And what all needs to be done to that well?
For sure, this is gonna be a new pump, new column pipe, and that's pretty much it.
And what's the cost on that roughly?
Well, 7.
That said 60,000.
No, that wasn't really.
It was 8.
And if we don't have that information, I think that as far as the cost for well 7, we'll get that to you all. You know, tomorrow, Jesus is out today, but I'll get with him on some of those questions. And either I or Tracy will, and Ruby as well is still helping with the wastewater side.
Okay, I noticed yesterday that the big, I think that's the 3 million gallon tank on the north end,
Yes, sir.
was about a third full. What do you ordinarily try to keep that at?
About 32 feet.
I'm sorry?
32 feet.
What percentage of that tank do you try to keep full?
About 3/4 of the tank.
3/4?
Yes, sir.
And we're down about a third right now?
Yes, sir.
There's a third of water only in that tank?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that's a lot, has to do with the wells.
I figured that much. That's why I'm asking about well 7, because that's one of your best wells, correct? 7 to 900 gallons per minute.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, you guys monitor the tanks every day, of course.
Correct.
Okay. And then, maybe this question's for Juan. When's the replacement of the sewer line in downtown? Kind of stinky down there.
Okay. What's your question?
The question is, when's the rest of the line going to be replaced that you had the leak in?
The line was being replaced today.
And that's all that's going to be replaced?
On that section, yes. And like I said, part of the bigger project is to replace the rest of the line throughout that area. But the Smithville was only contracted to do that section there.
You're not going to check to see if there's other leaks in that line?
Let me repeat that again. The bigger project for that area in front of the plaza and around the city hall is to replace the water and the sewer line.
And when would that take place?
Right now, we're undertaking a study from Wilson and Company. They're doing some boring to do some soil testing to see how that, because it's in the downtown area, we're going to have to deal with the hot mineral water. So we want to be able to go in and find the best, more economical way to address both the replacement of the water line, the sewer line. This is a pilot project. Please mindful of that we have never replaced everything in one project. I mean, the preliminary numbers that the engineer gave us was closer to $800,000, which we don't have. So we might do a combination of our streets department doing the roads because they've done it, and a lot less than contracting it out, combination of replacing water and wastewater lines. So we're gathering all that information, but that whole area, to answer your question, it will be done. But right
Well,
now,
you didn't answer the question. I asked if you're going to check the rest of the line to see if it's leaking.
no, it's not going to be checked.
Okay,
right?
that's what I wanted to know.
Okay.
So are you gonna replace the sewer or whatever you have down there so Broadway doesn't flood every time it rains?
No, we're talking about the sewer
No,
line.
no, I'm asking, you're saying that this is just a pilot project right now.
What's your, I'm not catching your question.
On Broadway, when it rains, there's puddles down there. Bullocks has got to put up sandbags so they don't bring it into the store. When is that portion going to be looked at?
We're not addressing the storm drainage issues. We're only addressing the water and sewer lines.
Okay.
And isn't the drainage on Broadway and Main, it's a state road, isn't that the state's responsibility?
It is a state road, but right now there is no storm drainage
There
system. I mean, we do have hot mineral channels that are in the downtown area, and there's some water that gets in them, but there's no channel system, so all of it is surface water that gets kind of drains out to the river. But that's a different animal in itself.
The line that broke by the utility office, what entities drain into that sewer line?
Sierra Grande, I believe, was one of them, and they have their building. I'm not sure who else, but I know the majority came from Sierra Grande.
And what size line was that?
6 inch.
Okay.
So, any other questions, Randy? Because I know you have more questions, so I just want to make sure, like I said, and I understand that, you can definitely, bring anything to the commissioner's attention, but I think in regards to the utilities, this is a good forum to have that discussion, because the rest of you all need to be aware of what's happening with the utilities. Another very key thing that we're dealing with is in regards to personnel. As you all are aware, Jesus will be retiring next month, unfortunately. And right now, we do have Arnie's out because of health issues. He's not going to be coming back in a couple of weeks, so he's out. So we have already started advertising for the director in the wastewater, both at the state and 2 different association publications, wastewater related organizations. We're publishing it there. We're publishing it as well as with the New Mexico Municipal League. And we're also trying to hire additional staff at both water and wastewater. Unfortunately, we're not getting good applicants coming in. And it's becoming an issue that either, one, we're going to have to somehow raise funds. Again, it's one of not only the infrastructure of fixing the lines, but also the personnel side too. We need to have the necessary funds. That's why we kind of try to always keep, whether it's impact fees that help us with the infrastructure side, because some other revenue sides can help us with other items, whether it's increasing rates or anything else, that's going to have to come up to address some of these issues, because it's becoming hard for us to be able to find qualified people who are certified, or even just the workers. We had, I believe during our department head meeting this morning, our HR office was telling us that we had 3 or 4 applicants, 4, that were applying for a laborer, and none of them showed up for the interviews. So it's just, and I don't know if what the rationale, what happened there, but those are the sort, and it's not just in the water wastewater. It makes it harder because you have to have certifications.
Right.
But it's also it's also in other departments, whether it's parks, whether it's streets or sanitation. It is just the nature of what we're having to deal with. But I think we are going to have to start looking at, increasing and retaining revenue in the water, wastewater, to be able to raise, some of these salaries.
I do have some other questions. There's been a leak on Cherry Lane running down the street now for weeks.
Okay?
When's that gonna be fixed?
Do you know anything about that?
No, there's a bunch of leaks.
When are they gonna be fixed?
We're taking them as the calls come in, we're scheduling them that way.
Well, I noticed the meter at the county was leaking, the county fair building, for at least 2 weeks. Cherry Lane's been leaking probably way over a month.
That's another thing that comes to staff,
I mean, we're literally losing tens of thousands of gallons a day. I mean, a toilet can spill, leaky toilets like 90 to 125,000 a month.
And maybe one of the things that we'll start looking at, again, as we are low staff, like what we did with the sewer line, we might have to contract some of these projects out. And I'll have Tracy and Ruby kind of reach out to some of you guys can, our staff can deal with some. In order to expedite some of these fixes, we might have to contract some of these out. So that's one of the options that unless you have an idea, Randy.
Well, I'd sure look at the wages that I'm offering for starting salary, number one.
Okay.
And number two, I'd see if I could get more organized in management to look at these things. Might accidentally get in my car and drive around and look at these things around town. A few things like that.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you're
I'm
supporting.
around town every day, all day long, and I see this stuff. It's very bothersome.
So when you do that, or anybody of the board, please let us know and send us an email. If you do email Randy, please send us an email either to Jesus, Tracy.
I don't
or-
email, but I did call in the lake when the leak at the county fair building was finally running down Broadway
Okay.
on Saturday or Sunday. I think it was Saturday.
All right. Thank you. And again, that's all we have, but if there's anything else that from now until the next meeting, please let us know. And like I said, these are questions and issues that we have we like to address and make sure everybody feels comfortable what we need to do and address some of the long-term, for example, like the capacity tank issue. That definitely, one of the things that reminded me that you brought up, Jeff, was the watering at the cemetery. And that's still being watered with potable water. And the goal eventually, which one of the things is to use effluent water. We are installing the sulfur system at the wastewater treatment plant. The concrete is being poured this week, so hopefully we'll get it installed soon. And hopefully we'll see some improvements in the delivery, and maybe down the road we can extend that line to the cemetery, because that has a huge impact when the cemetery is being watered, and especially in these hot months. So, thank you.
I have one more. Sure.
Yeah.
Going back to tanks, all that's on SCADA system, is it not?
The tanks are not on SCADA system right now. No, they were at one time, but the signal is not good.
How are we gonna look at putting them back on the SCADA system? Because we get the tanks online in the SCADA system, we can set up the SCADA system to alarm out at whatever set levels we put in. And if we don't have that already figured out, we do need to figure it out.
Yeah,
Because, when I'm looking at a tank that's 50% capacity, losing a foot a day, I'm getting concerned.
mhm,
And we're going into summer behind the 8 ball.
yeah.
If we get well 7 back online, it'll take a lot of the burden off, but we still have the Cook Street Achilles heel problem. There's a lot of things, but what I was interested mostly is, I'd like to come in at some point and see what the city has the set points for alarms, low-level alarms, high-level alarms, what pump stations are triggered, or what parameters are triggered when these alarms do go off. Do we stop pumping water to the upper zone, if the lower zone goes low, things like that have to be all considered. And just as this public personnel member, I'd like to understand a little bit how those set points were calculated and made.
And the other thing we need to look at is, at what point, if we get to the point where we have to put in water conservation measures, because we don't want that water level up on that tank getting too low. And, if people are out there watering, as dry as it's been, there's been a lot of watering going on. And, if we If water levels get too low, we have to realize at some point we may have to, enforce these water conservation measures.
And just so you'll know, just like what we did with the wastewater, we went after $8 million upgrade. Our goal was to do the same with the water system and upgrade the SCADA system and get all of that. But unfortunately, because of funding, we're having to start, we started the wastewater system USDA about, 5 years ago or so. It takes time. On the water side, it's going to be the same process. It's going to take time. That's why we're going after phase one, the cook station, and eventually build up from that. So it's going to be a while, but that's the whole goal, is getting that whole system upgraded as well. The wells and everything else are going to be hopefully included in all of those upgrades.
So you can sure save a lot of wear and tear on the vehicles if you can just look at the computer monitors.
Right. Yeah. Well, again, our focus first was wastewater. Now we're jumping into the water side. Right. Thank you.
I had one question. What was going on Saturday and Sunday and today at North Riverside, 702, 706 Riverside? I saw what was going on there?
Is that by the vacuum station?
Yeah, they come to the same thing, equipment, it's based on a plunger system, so those fail. Usually when they fail, the guys have to go over there and address the problem, unclog the line or replace the.
So you got an alarm saying that you had to do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This was where now?
Between 702 and 706 North Riverside Drive.
That's for the MEMS station.
Or is that the address of that?
Yes, sir.
There's a manhole cover right there.
Everything that has to deal with Riverside, North Riverside, it has to deal with the MEMS station.
Do you have all the parts?
Yes. I have a brand new mechanism there at the plant, and some other ones I'm trying to rebuild.
Tracy had something yet.
I just wanted to follow up too and remind you guys that we had discussed with the water lines and going out for funding that our preliminary engineering report focuses on the downtown area. Our asset management plan focuses citywide. However, when I get ready to go out for funding in other areas, I will have to have another PER done. So that's something to take into consideration. We are going to have to reach out, hopefully through some funding sources, and do it in steps, but that means we'll be applying for maybe Colonias or Water Trust Board to have an engineering report done on water lines citywide or in other sections of the city. Once we get the funding for that and then have an engineer do that, then I go back in front of funding sources to maybe look at doing the design and then the construction, because as you know, as we discussed last time, those funding sources are wanting us to break it apart now. But just keep in mind that before I can start reaching out for funding in other areas, that has to be done.
And I think it's important to note that, there has to be a PER done.
Yes.
On all of these projects before the funding agency can fund the construction of a project. So, and a lot of the funding agencies, basically what they're saying is we want to make sure the entities have skin in the game, which means that they want entities to contribute part of their funds towards a project. So if, as you can hear, it's the water system, it's sewer lines, it's the vacuum station, there's a whole array of infrastructure improvements that we need to make. So if there's one in particular that you all are aware of, or in collaboration with staff, and that we say, you know what, we're going to have to upgrade this system. For example, I don't know, the vacuum station has probably been around since mid-90s. But it's getting old, and eventually it's going to have to require some upgrades. I don't know what the cost is going to be on that. That's going to be, if that is a priority, then we'll probably have to put in some money up front to do a PER for it so that we can go after funding agency. We need to get ahead of everybody else, of all of the other entities who do not have the money to be able to do these PERs, because then they'll give them money, but then they have to have a PER done. That sets them a year, almost 2 years behind. So if we can get ahead ourselves with a particular project, then that gives us a little bit better chance with the funding for actual construction. So right now we have the wastewater phase 2B. we're going after the application for, we have USDA, Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund money for the water system, Cook Station. We're going after USDA. If there's something else, then again, we need to identify that project. And I understand there's a lot of things, you're going to see lines breaking, you're going to see leaks of water, but at the end of the day, what's critical right now, whether it's the SCADA system or anything else, we need to identify that one project and get a PER and go after the funding. We can't do everything at the same time. It's just impossible. There's not enough money out there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, last discussion update, electric department.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So I have a few updates for you. The first one is for the high school fitness center. Bill said he went by there. He said the project's moving smoothly. The Cielo Vista subdivision, on June 12th, we had a pre-construction meeting with Bixby Electric, and so far the project is going good. The substation battery replacement, we received some quotes, and the contract will be with HEI, which is out of Albuquerque, and we'll be moving forward with the project starting in July. The money for that has been put in the budget for next year. We're currently working on getting the quotes to replace the antenna at the Mud Mountain, and the contractors are done replacing the 2 poles by the substation, as well as the other pole in the corner of Barton and Pershing, and then the crew's just been replacing poles around town. That's all I have, so I stand for any questions.
Anyone, questions?
The
comments?
project said this funding is scheduled for next year. Is that the next month, July?
For this coming fiscal year, yes.
Okay.
Did you say the battery backup, they've already started work on that at the sub?
That's going to start in July.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item, comments from the board. Okay.
I just wanted, I made the remark that I drive around town all day, and which is basically true 7 days a week, and it is very bothersome to see water running down the street from leaks, especially when they've been leaking for weeks. That's a lot of water, and we're down to 3 wells. I think we're getting pretty close to critical condition here. I know we have a new budget coming up, but it'd be nice if some of the other board members just cruised through the different subdivisions and areas and just look over the situation so you can have a grasp of what I see every day. I mean, I drive through this town a lot, and one of the main reasons I got on this board was to see how we could get infrastructure going. And I think there's other means that we can look at, and down the road I will bring some ideas to the board. Thank you.
I've been cruising this street for about 30 years. That had been working with the city, 34 years now. And to me, it doesn't look any different than any other summer that I've been here. And with the state fact that we're already 3 guys down, and I'm sure they're the lower part, the guys actually do the physical work, shoveling, et cetera, it's going to be slower. And I see them jumping all over town. As soon as they're done over here, they go, and you're low like that, you're going to always be behind that 8 ball. Hopefully, guys will show up for their appointed round interviews, and we can hire some people, and maybe we can kick a little bit more money in that department and get some more people. But until that happens, it's just going to be as it always been.
I'd just like to say one other thing. I am definitely not saying anything against our city workers. It's very hard, especially in the summer, also in the cold of winter. Had a very good friend that worked in the water department for a long time, Julian Garcia. Sometimes I felt like dragging his butt right out of the ditch when he was working on broken water lines and stuff in the cold and the heat. We're almost the same age, and it bothered me. I'm not saying anything about our regular city workers. They've got their hands full.
Okay. Anyone else? Ron?
Thank you. No.
No, okay. Yeah, you fooled me. Okay. Any comments from the staff? Oh, dang. Okay. No. I thought I was supposed to disconnect it. You know. Yeah. Okay, no comments from staff. We're adjourned. Thank you and good night, everyone.